Okay, cool. That is cool. Nice. Yeah. Wow. We're in good company here. That's great.
Extremely good company.
That's awesome. So good.
Must have been Lunas on their way down to Johnny Madden's tour or on the way back from it.
No, they were here back in the spring. They were
Oh,
on
okay.
a tour, so they played for Brims.
Yeah. Sweet. That's awesome.
We're heading to John's hometown tomorrow.
Well, you're listening to the stage right here at WTJU. And back in 2014, I was so excited. I'd heard about this band called Burning Bridget Cleary that I flew out to Kansas City to catch. Alas, that didn't really happen. But out of the ashes came a wonderful group, House of Hamill, and we're lucky enough to have them here at the stage with us on this day. They're in Charlottesville for a concert this evening at the Center, and all the details on that you can find over at WTJU.net. But they found some time to stop by WTJU. So before I chat with them, how about y'all kick off with something?
Sure. Wake people up with some Irish jigs.
All right, let's do it.
Live here at the stage, the sounds of House of Hamill performing for us. So what was that first one?
That was a few tunes from our new album called The Superb Owl Set. A bunch of originals Brian and I wrote together.
Superb Owl because we're more into birds than the football classic Super Bowl.
Well, those two voices you hear are the duo known as House of Hamill. However, there is a trio, and if you're listening to this and heading to a festival tomorrow...
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're going to be at the Radford Highland Games tomorrow.
Radford Highlanders Festival is on the campus of Radford University, and it's a great festival. It's been going for, I think, 20-something years now.
And
we're playing 3 times throughout the day.
So tomorrow you'll get to hear the bass of Caroline Browning.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline plays bass and mandolin and adds third harmonies and a foot tambourine because we can only afford to hire one more musician, so we make her do 4 things.
Yep.
And as Brian Buchanan is chatting with us, playing guitar for us, but I've seen you play some fiddle as well.
This is true, yes. I don't have it out with me right now for the few songs we're going to do this afternoon, but I do play some fiddle with House of Hamill. When we can get away with it, or when we need to play some nice slow airs in harmony, or some of our all violin covers.
Of course, Rose Baldino there on the fiddle. And what I always like about Rose, no matter where I've seen her, is it's easy to pick her out of a line when she's walking around because she's got this wonderful, distinctive hair that so I can follow to see where she's performing next.
That is true.
I'll take that, yeah. Distinctive.
Indeed. Well, welcome to WTJU.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how House of Hamill came to be. I kind of alluded to the introduction for you both, but tell us.
Yeah, so after the missed flights and then Brian and I finally started talking, he moved down. He stayed with me for about 2 weeks in Philadelphia after coming down from Canada, and we signed a lease together immediately after that.
To fill in the gaps, because I think we were talking about it off the air a little bit more than on, the 2014 Folk Alliance International Conference was in Kansas City, and Rose's band, Burning Bridget Cleary, was hired as one of the official showcase, formal showcase bands, which is a big deal at Folk Alliance International. And I just happened to be there. I was working for a company called Bandzoogle, a website platform for musicians. And Rose's dad and her drummer, her guitar player and drummer, had their flights canceled on the day of their showcase. And so... I was freaking out. I was totally freaked out. And so I found Brian, because I had met him, I think, once or twice before, very briefly. And I said, if I can find you a guitar, will you play our showcase with us? And he said... Okay, he was a little terrified. Well, we play our showcase with us tonight. It's 40 minutes, and it's tonight, and we have basically half an hour to rehearse 40 minutes worth of music.
You were fine. So anyway, we found him a guitar, practiced a couple hours, and played the showcase.
And if anybody's familiar with the band Runa, Cheryl from Runa,
the drummer,
Cheryl Prashker filled in on djembe and drums for her. So it was a weird little. I'm not going to say super group. It was a weird
collaboration,
collaborative, jumble.
Yeah. So that's how we first met, really. How we first started talking.
I was there that night, so I do remember it.
Wow.
That's great.
I'm glad there's not too much video of how it went there, but
that's fine.
I'm sure you guys were great.
But since that time,
we now have 3 studio albums together, and we're actually this week beginning work on a 4th.
Can't believe that was 8 years ago. That's
I know.
Crazy, yeah.
And in the intervening time, Caroline, who's as I mentioned, our bass player, mandolin player, we were hired to play a festival. Rose and I were in Fort Collins, Colorado, and same thing happened. We had a drummer and a bass player hired, and their flights got canceled because of weather. And so, in desperation, we just went on Facebook and we begged our followers to hook us up with a musician in the Denver area or in the Fort Collins area. And Caroline's mother-in-law was an Enter the Haggis fan, and so she saw the post and she said, "My daughter-in-law plays bass," and sent us a YouTube link in which we couldn't hear Caroline playing bass, but we could see that she was holding a bass.
And she looked cool.
Yeah, so we hired her.
We hired her.
That's half the battle. Looking
yeah,
cool.
right, exactly.
Well, you talk about Enter the Haggis, and Brian, that's your group up north, which now, Rose, you're also a part of.
Yeah, last year and a half or so, basically since just before COVID started, Rose has been playing too with Haggis, which is cool. There's some like dual fiddle things, and also she plays fiddle parts on songs where I have to play piano or guitar, and we've never been able to have the fiddle parts live, and sing some backup vocals and occasional keyboards and tambourines and shakers.
Whatever you need me to do.
Yeah. And
fill the gaps.
I've been playing with Enter the Haggis since the year 2000, so 22 years. Used to come through Charlottesville and play at the Gravity Lounge, which I have just been informed closed 15 years ago, which makes me feel incredibly old. But fond memories of Charlottesville from those years.
Yeah.
Well, those just tuning in and watching, we've got House of Hamill with us, and they're performing on this 7th night of October at the Center. It's at the Senior Center. For those who might know where that is, the Center is a newer name, great location, and that show starts at 6 o'clock.
Yes, it does.
All the details on that, we do have a link up right there at WTJU.net. But before we chat more, how about we get another one?
Sure, yeah. So this is from our new album, Folk Hero, and this is a song called The Bully of Skidmore Town. And Brian and I wrote this one together. I'll let you tell the story.
Very, very briefly, yeah. It's the story of a town coming together to take care of a bully after law enforcement failed them. And the entire town saw what happened, but in the 40 years since, nobody's ever stood trial for the murder of this bully because nobody in town has ever come forward to say who pulled the trigger. So be nice to your neighbors. Run is coming, black smoke, dark cloud, blood in the water, gonna bring him down. McElroy the Brooklyn was a monstrous man, but the local lawman let him wander free. 20 times arrested, boasting blood red hands, till he took his gun into the DNG. Road is coming, black smoke, dark cloud, blood in the water, gonna bring him down. He shot 2 men for nothing in the middle of a town, and he targeted any town, he talking tough. He terrorized their kids and burned their houses to the ground. Then one day his neighbors finally had enough. Oh, broken bones and blackened eyes. Oh, broken promises and lies. Oh, for the goodness of their town, they'd find a skateboard bully and they'd bring him down. Silence in a tight-knit town, 40 years of quiet prayers and solemn eyes. 40 people sound, but not a single shooter named. No one sheds a tear the day our bully dies. Oh, broken bones and blackened eyes. Oh, broken promises and lies. Oh, for the goodness of their town, they find the skateboard bully and they bring him down in broad daylight. So cold, so still, not one soul is talking, and they never will.
Well, not a soul may be talking, but I'm here to tell you that you're listening to House of Hamill here on the stage at WTJU. And On this Friday night, they are in Charlottesville for a performance over the center. Then they're going to be heading to a festival tomorrow, which is going to be in Radford.
Radford,
University.
Virginia.
Yeah. So all the details on that at houseofhamill.com. And tell you what, let's talk about House of Hamill. Is that named after the house, the two of you?
No. So it's funny because all of these people with the last name Hamill contact us every year asking if there's any relation. But no, it's a very nerdy thing. It's the name of an Irish tune written by a man named Ed Reevy, who was this just wonderful fiddle player and composer. And it was the first tune I taught Brian when he came to visit me for the first time in Philly.
We were swapping Canadian tunes and Irish tunes, yeah.
And then we had a gig and we needed a name, so.
There you go.
Sounded like a band name, yeah.
Sure.
It's funny, every year at Christmas we probably sell half a dozen t-shirts to some family somewhere that buys House of Hamill t-shirts for all their kids who are all named Hamill.
I know.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, speaking of trading Irish and Canadian tunes, what got you, Rose, into Irish music to begin with?
Oh my God. Well, honestly, it was like I was on the verge of quitting violin. I just really did not like it. I hated practicing. I was just at my end with it. I was about to quit, and I think my mom signed me up for fiddle lessons as kind of a last-ditch effort to get me to keep playing. So I started taking fiddle lessons alongside classical lessons, and I just completely fell in love with it. I was obsessed with it. So yeah, it saved me on the violin, which is great.
Your mom let you finally quit classical music when she noticed you were throwing trills and triplets into Bach.
Truly, yeah. That's definitely true, yeah, so.
Yeah, the same sort of thing happened for me. I was a classical violinist as a kid, and then when I was 12, I think, I had a music teacher in my elementary school, Mike Curley, and he played in a bluegrass band, and they didn't have a fiddle player, and he knew I played violin. And so secretly, he would keep me inside at recess and play me bluegrass records and teach me how to play some bluegrass and old times tunes.
That's very School of Rock.
Yeah, I know.
That's
and,
great.
And my mom was my mom loves Irish music, but she was opposed to it because she wanted me to be like a symphony violinist like her sister is. And she was convinced if I played fiddle music, I would never be able to make a living. And turns out she was right.
You went to the dark side. Welcome.
Now, what part of Canada are you from?
It's outside of Toronto, Ontario. I grew up in
wondered.
a town called Orangeville.
Well, you talked about bluegrass and old time, and in Toronto, that area is so strong for that. So I did wonder. So.
Yeah, well, Canadian old time, what we call old time in Ontario, and there's a whole fiddle contest circuit that I played when I was a kid, and it's kind of a mishmash of like American Appalachian old time music and Irish and Cape Breton and Scottish, and so it's kind of an interesting crossbreed style of playing.
Well, and they do intersect, so it's beautifully. But you know, good friends with folks like Chris Cool and the Slocan Ramblers, and of course we're always getting to play their music. And now we've got your new album as well, Folk Hero. So let's talk about Folk Hero for a second. It's your latest album, and recorded it as the trio.
We did, yeah. So we had Caroline on this one, which is great. And we recorded this one in Massachusetts, actually. It was this old, beautiful converted church. They made it into this gorgeous studio. So we were lucky enough to record it there. And yeah, I can't believe it's a year old now, which is wild. Like we keep calling it the new album. Yeah. Forever. It's forever the new album until the next one comes out. So yeah, it's about a year now.
It's new to most people, so we'll continue calling it a new album. Yeah.
Cool.
And we're going to Asheville for a show there on Sunday, and Monday we're spending the day at Echo Mountain Studio, which is a really cool place, and starting to lay down tracks for a few new songs for an eventual fourth album.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, we still feel like this is a brand new band. We were talking about it on the way here, that we're still green and getting our feet under us and getting into venues and going out on tour and stuff. So we've been playing together for 8 years and we have 3 albums.
Feels new to me.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Echo Mountain Studio, and some of the best albums have come out of there.
Yes.
One of my bands is no longer from Pennsylvania, the Stray Birds.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
We're working with Julian Dreher, the producer who did their album. So. Yeah.
Actually, it was because of that band. If you remember at Folk Alliance, they lent me their mics for my fiddle for our showcase because yeah. So everyone coming together for that showcase.
And we haven't been to a Folk Alliance. We went to NERFA, the Northeast Regional, and we're going to the Folk Alliance region Midwest at the end of this month.
Yeah.
So,
yep, be all over the place.
Well, those just catching us. This is House of Hamill, the duo. You can catch the full trio tomorrow in Radford. But this evening, here on the 7th of October, they will be at the Center here in Charlottesville for a concert that starts at 6 o'clock. How about I get out of the way and hear some more from you?
Sure, yeah. Here's a couple of tunes we wrote together, and this is called Cat Bacon.
Live here at the stage at WTJU, the sounds of House of Hamill, the duo, who you can catch this evening on the 7th of October at the Center. And then they're going to be heading to Radford tomorrow with the full trio. And then Sunday, they're going to the legendary Isis Music Hall.
That's right, yep.
And that's going to be with the trio as well?
That is,
It
yes.
is, yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't quite get Caroline up for these first couple of shows in this run, but she'll be with us for the rest of the weekend.
And check that out at houseofhamill.com. Well, Rose, before this group, as we talked about Burning Bridget Cleary, how did that group come to be?
Oh man, well, I think what first happened was I had a really good friend named Jenna, and we still talk, which is great. But her and I were really, really good friends. We kind of grew up playing Irish music together, and so when we were about 16 years old, her and I were skipping school on Fridays to play fiddle, which was really fun.
Every Friday?
Well, maybe not every Friday, but a few of them.
Okay.
A few of them. Our parents allowed it. And eventually, a family friend of Jenna's decided to have an Irish pub party. Basically, they had a pub in their house, and they wanted some Irish music. And so her and I said, "Well, we'll play." And my dad said, "Well, I'll join you on guitar. We'll see what happens."
So Rose's dad is a fantastic jazz guitar player, and he's played in bands since he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And had to very quickly, it was quite a learning curve, I think, because he'd never played drop D guitar, and he
Yeah.
wanted to play basically like John Doyle. And so he went and bought, this is actually his guitar that he bought, that I now
And he got
tour with.
really good. And so
Yeah.
the three of us played this party, and they were passing around the hat. And, when you're 15 and 16 years old and you make $100, it's like the most incredible thing that's ever happened to you. So we freaked out that we had made $100, and we looked at each other and we're like, we should do this.
We're
and so we
dropping
just
out of school.
Yeah, no. But we started playing, little shows, little pub shows, and little festivals and stuff like that. And so, yeah, kind of took off from there.
And born and raised Pennsylvania? Or?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, outside of Philadelphia. So, yeah, we're pretty close to where I grew up, about a half hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Brian, you've lived south of the border for how long now?
Since 2015. I moved down in January of 2015, basically 2 months after the first time I came down to hang out with Rose in PA. And then her lease coincidentally expired right after that first visit. And so she's like, "So what, are we doing this? Do I get a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom? Are you going to sign a lease with me?" And so I basically just picked up my roots and filled a van full of the few things that I owned, and we drove down to Pennsylvania, and I never went back.
So
Well, you've been back.
I've been, yeah, they do let me go back, yeah.
So, compared with Philly cheesesteaks, how much poutine are you eating?
Well, another influence that Rose has been over me is that I'm now a vegetarian. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, there's not as many cheesesteaks flying around, but I do sometimes sneak poutine when we're on tour and we find somewhere that
Yeah.
has it. She's horrified by the concept,
I'm
but
horrified,
I
but
think
you do you.
You got to be, yeah. This is you were brought up with like scrapple around, so I don't know if
Well, that is... Don't put that on my family.
Scrapple, folks. It's what's for every meal, apparently,
you can. Yep.
at Rose's home.
It's horrifying.
Well, how about I get out of the way and hear another one from you?
Sure. Absolutely. What do you want to do? You want to do Turning Away?
Sure. Do a Doogie song.
Sure. So this is a song written by Doogie McLean and a wonderful Scottish singer-songwriter. And we fell in love with this song called Turning Away. It's on our new album. 2, 3, 4.
And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here.
On the water we have walked like the fearless child. What was fastened we've unlocked, revealing wondrous wild.
And in search of confirmation, we have jumped into the fire.
And scrambled with our burning feet through uncontrolled desire.
And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here.
growing strong and fast. And there's those that try to tame it and carve it into stone. But words cannot extinguish it, however hard they're thrown. And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here. If they have worked with their Highland dreams, by Kilcrennan they have nourished in the mountain streams. And in searching for acceptance, they've given it away. Only the children of their children know the price they had to pay. And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away. And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away. Turning away from here.
Live here at the stage, the sounds of House of Hamill, the duo. You can catch them this evening, the 7th, here in Charlottesville at the Center. Tomorrow they're going to be at Radford, and Sunday they're going to be at the ISIS Music Hall, I think is what they call themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
In Asheville. And all the details on them at House of Hamill. Before I let you go, we talked about Burning Bridget Cleary. Let's just talk about entering Haggis for a second.
Sure. Yeah, I joined the band Enter the Haggis when I was 18, when I was just out of high school. The former fiddle player, their touring fiddle player, he had decided that he wanted to go in a different direction with his career and didn't want to be touring with an Irish band anymore. And I was the only Toronto fiddle player that he knew. And so he knew that I also played some keyboards and stuff. And we actually just wound up trading bands. I was playing in like a goth rock band in Toronto, and he took over for a couple of gigs for my band in Toronto, and I went and played some shows. It was just supposed to be for a weekend, filling in with Enter the Haggis in Ottawa. And he wound up hitting it off with the singer of my band to the point where they got engaged, although they didn't go through with it. And he stayed in that band, and I stayed in Enter the Haggis from that point on, and started playing mostly pubs around Ontario and then across Canada. And then we started playing festivals in the States, and there's such a huge market for Irish, Celtic, Scottish music in the U.S., and there's tons of festivals and tons of Irish venues and things. So,
Be honest though, you missed the goth rock band.
the goth rock band, yeah, they were called Kuru.
Shout out to Kuru.
Kuru, yeah, it was a brain disease from I think you get from eating human brains.
You get from eating Scrapple, actually.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
You never know.
Well, let's be honest, haggis is pretty close to brains, too.
Haggis is somewhere between brains and Scrapple, I think. Yeah, it's somewhere. And now that we're vegetarian, although we were over in Scotland back in April, and I did have vegetarian haggis at breakfast a couple of times.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a less flavorful sausage patty. It's not as
I know people
horrifying
like
as it
that.
sounds. Yeah.
Well, folks, make sure you get out and catch House of Hamill wherever they might be, or if it happens to be Enter the Haggis. Is that right? Yep. Yep. Just want to make sure. Just keep checking them out. houseofhamble.com, and when they're playing as Enter the Haggis, enterthehaggis.com.
Yes, sir. Yep. And
Very
we will be
simple.
coming down through this way in March, February and March of this year. I don't think we're playing in Charlottesville, but sort of in the surrounding areas. So, yeah, check it out.
If we can find a way to get you here at the stage, let's make sure that happens.
That'd be a lot of guys on this stage, but we could try and do it.
We'll do what we can. We've had as many as 16 up there before.
Oh, my God. Okay.
As long as you don't mind sitting on shoulders, but that's a whole different story. How about you close out with one for us?
Sure, yeah. So this is from our second album, March Through Storms, and a song written by Ed Pickford called Pound a Week Rise, with a tune written by Liz Carroll called Ann Lacey's. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Come on, you colliers, then work down the mine, from Scotland to South Wales, from Teesdale to Tyne. I'll sing you a song of a pound a week rise, and the men who are fooled by the government's lies. It's down you go, down below, Jack, where you never see the sky, and you're working in a dungeon for a pound a week rise. In 1960, just a few years ago, the mine workers' leaders to Lord Robins did go, saying we work very hard, every day we risk our lives, and we ask you here and now for a pound a week rise. It's down you go, down below, Jack, where you never see the sky, and you're working in a dungeon for a pound a week rise. Then up spoke Lord Robins, and he made this decree: when the output rises, then with you I will agree to raise up all your wages, to give you fair pay. For I was once a miner, and I worked hard in my day. It's down you go, down below, Jack, where you never see the sky, and you're working in a dungeon for a pound a week rise. Then the miners they went, they worked hard and well, with lungs full of coal dust in the bosom of hell. The output rose by 16, 18% and more, and when 2 years had come and gone, it rose above a score. Then the miners they went to get their hard-won prize, to ask Lord Robins for his pound a week rise. Robins wouldn't give a pound, wouldn't give 10 bob. He gave them 7 and 6 and said, get back to your jobs. So come on, you colliers, take heed what I say. Oh, and don't believe a coalboard when they say you'll get fair pay. 'Cause they'll tell you to work hard just to make the output rise. You'll get pie in the sky instead of a £1 rise. And it's down you go, down below, Jack, where you never see the sky, and you're working in a dungeon for a pound a week rise. And it's down you go, down below, Jack, where you never see the sky, and you're working in a dungeon for a pound a week rise.
House of Hamill, Rose Baldino, and Brian Buchanan performing this night, the 7th of October, at the Center. And then they'll be joining their partner in crime, Caroline Browning, for the next 2 nights. Radford this Saturday night, and then Isis Music Hall down there in Nashville on Sunday. Check out houseofhamill.com and pick up a copy of their latest album, Folk Hero. Thanks so much for stopping by WTJU.
Thanks for having us. It's a
Thanks.
pleasure.